Cold weather in Nevada, parts of Las Vegas, even the Strip, waking up to as much as 2 inches of snow this morning. The city got hit with a surprise storm last night. The first time in more than a decade, Las Vegas Valley has seen enough snow for it to stick. High temperatures in Vegas are supposed to be in the mid to upper 40s this week, and the city could even get more snow on Wednesday.
Up to 2 inches of snow fell in the Las Vegas desert for the first time in a decade. A second winter storm is expected to hit Las Vegas within the coming days. The massive winter storm created travel and commuting trouble for almost 200 million people in as many as 39 states.
This may look like a Colorado mountain, but it's actually Maui. According to Hawaii's Department for Land and Natural Resources, this footage was captured at an elevation of 6,200 feet. Which may be the lowest elevation at which snow has been recorded in the state. The winter storm brought strong gusts of wind, and a high surf advisory was in effect for parts of the Hawaiian Islands.
It's not something you see every day, or even decade. Snow in Los Angeles. An exceptionally chilly storm system brought snow on Thursday to cities across Southern California, including Malibu, West Hollywood, Pasadena, San Bernardino, and Rancho Cucamonga. The snow level dropped to as low as 1,000 feet in some areas, with flakes falling in cities that haven't seen snow in several decades.
Look at this, you guys. Snowing in Malibu. This is an absolute first.
I'd be surprised too, right?
Yeah.
That's right, snow along the ocean in Malibu. Snow and hail fell down to 1,500 feet in many places. You can even see it blowing across our Malibu.
We are talking about record rain and almost in biblical proportions. Obviously, that has created flash flooding and regular flooding all across California. And, you know, we came here early this morning and we were just down the way. We couldn't actually see what had happened here, but we saw that the flash flood had gouged out 10 feet over there of sediment. Here it's about 15 feet. I'm gonna cross over, hopefully not fall. And I just want to give you a sense of the scale here. This was basically somebody's backyard. That flash flooding took out this wall, part of the housing. You can see the roof over there cantilevered precariously over still. And where we are right now, this was basically people's backyards. They parked cars here, they had little gardens, and now it's this canyon with a creek flowing through it. Now earlier, I'm gonna have the camera spin around, even as of late last night, this whole thing was basically an enormous river about 10 feet deep, taking everything with it as it coursed through this community of Lake Elsinore, which is under its 6th mandatory evacuation in just a couple of months. But other places in California so hard hit. We have those images out of Sausalito in Marin County, that landslide taking out a couple of houses. In Palm Springs, there are these incredible images of what is normally a desert engulfed in an ocean of white water. Cars disappearing as they are just swept down river. Nobody was hurt in that car. Apparently the people had escaped, but the car obviously destroyed. And across the hilly and mountainous areas here in Southern California, what had been just small drainage ditches turned into these roaring waterfalls. This one just gouging out a massive hunk out of that road. So dozens of communities affected here. We're talking about record rain, over a foot of it in Sonoma County. I mean, that's like tropical.
In northern Chile, 6 people had, after several days of heavy storms, led to flooding. Roads were cut off and houses were damaged. Operations at 2 copper mines were also suspended. A red alert has been issued in the provinces of Sinaloa and Antofagasta. Authorities have warned of a land and rock slide.
hot lava and volcanic ash spewed from Mount Karagatan on Saturday, burying roads and forcing hundreds of people from nearby villages to flee their homes. Bad weather conditions are making it difficult for authorities to carry out rescue operations. Over 130 people have been evacuated so far, but authorities say more than 500 more need help. The volcano is located in the island chain of Sulawesi. It's been erupting since February 4th.
Masih ada isi itu solar itu? Ada. Kalau lunas bukan biasanya kemarin dia ini langsung. Kalau kemarin kalau ambil kemarin. Etus tuh sabar. Ada kesana kita. Ini besar sekali ini.
On a Friday, and it's wild in the city's west. A supersized summer storm roaring in at rush hour, turning roadways to waterways. In areas like Parramatta, around 60 millimetres rain came crashing down in one almighty dump. Weather so sudden and so bad, the SES had to pull 9 people from their waterlogged cars.
How'd you get out? Through the window.
Right through the west, stricken commuters forced to abandon ship. 4 wheels no match for the power and peril of this flash flood. Nor was Sydney's brand new trains, according to those on board. But it was the wild wind that dealt the biggest blow. Eleanor Street in Rose Hill today, a disaster zone as the flying roof of one house carved a chaotic trail. The wind was so strong the windows blew out, with glass landing all the way over here as water and debris flew everywhere. One person remarkably made it out as the roof blew 50 metres along the street.
I thought, oh my God, where is that landed? Who's it landed on?
The supercell storm took no prisoners, from Porsches parked up in Parramatta to brand new Volkswagens.
We just get out of the car because we were very afraid, and at the same time, tree just fell down.
A double whammy for this florist who spent a working Saturday cleaning up. A retirement village in Toongabbie also among the worst hit.
Almost like a tornado. And when the tree fell, it was such a shock. I felt as though the whole house shook.
At the height of the storm, more than 40,000 properties were without power. Electricity crews today responded to more than 300 calls. Falling trees and roofs like this one at Parramatta North Public School, bringing lines down citywide.
Now, firefighters in New Zealand have begun back burning. Now, thousands of people have in fact been forced to leave their homes after the deadly wildfires, which has continued to burn for quite a few days now. The wildfire began about a week ago. Authorities have declared it as a state of emergency, and no deaths, although, have been reported so far. Almost up to about 3,000 people have had to be evacuated from the Wakefield and the Pigeon Valley areas. Strong winds are expected to fan the forest fires today, with 155 firefighters battling the blaze and air support from 23 helicopters and 2 planes. Now, this was in fact the largest aerial firefight on record in New Zealand. Now, the area south of Nelson, which has been affected by the fire, is majorly used for forestry, and some of the livestock has also been moved to safety. The New Zealand Civil Defence has set up tents to serve food for the volunteers, firefighters and also for the security personnel.
Outbreak of foot-and-mouth disease has been confirmed for the second time in as many days. The new case was discovered in the city of Ansong last night, a day after the government confirmed a type O variant of the disease in that city. The second farm is located only around 11 kilometers away from the first. The Ministry of Agriculture said if there's another confirmed case, it would take further steps to keep the disease from spreading to other regions. At the moment, a 24-hour lockdown is on all livestock farms within 3 kilometers.
According to a report by Reuters, on Friday, acting U.S. Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan said that the United States remains committed to defeating Islamic State in the Middle East and beyond. However, officials claim that European allies are skeptical of Washington's pledges. In recent weeks, U.S. officials have crisscrossed the Middle East in an attempt to reassure allies in the region of Washington's continued commitment. Shanahan reportedly said, while the time for U.S. troops on the ground in northeast Syria winds down, the United States remains committed to our coalition's cause, the permanent defeat of ISIS both in the Middle East and beyond.
According to Reuters, Cuba said the United States was moving special forces closer to Venezuela as part of a covert plan to interfere in the chaotic South.
According to a report by Reuters, on Thursday, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency laid out a plan to control a group of toxic chemicals commonly found in Americans' drinking water. However, the limit will not be set until later this year. Acting EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler announced the agency's per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances at homes used by firefighters linked to cancer and other health risks. Wheeler reportedly said, "We are moving forward with several important actions, including the maximum contaminant level process that will help affected communities better monitor, detect, and address PFAS."
According to a report by Reuters, on Thursday, Russian President Vladimir Putin told his Turkish and Iranian counterparts that the presence of terrorist groups in Syria's Idlib region should not be tolerated. Putin was reportedly speaking at a summit in the Black Sea resort of Sochi to discuss the future of Syria with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan. Reuters reports that Moscow has expressed concerns that Islamist militants formerly belonging to the Nusra Front group are now in control of much of Idlib and is pushing for military action to drive them out.
Geek.com reports the United States Department of Agriculture, known as the USDA, has reclassified the controversial pink slime that refers to lean, finely textured beef to be simply labeled ground beef. In 2012, Beef Products Inc., which makes a beef filler known as lean, finely textured beef, filed a defamation suit against ABC News when it used the term pink slime in a report about the product. The lawsuit was settled in 2017 for more than $177 million. Now the USDA has given its approval for the beef company to call its product ground beef. The reclassification reportedly involved an extensive review that took well over 6 months and included consumer reviews and nutritional panels. Companies who used lean, finely textured beef as filler in the past didn't have to disclose it in their products, so consumers were buying products with the filler without
China's
knowing.
treatment of Uyghur Muslims has sparked an international outcry. This week, Turkey's Ministry of Foreign Affairs released a statement that accuses China of torturing Uyghurs in these camps and subjecting them to what Turkey calls political brainwashing. Now, the government also stated it had information that the Uyghur folk poet and musician Abdurrahim Hayat, who's been detained for over 2 years, had died under China's custody. But State Radio, the China Radio International Turkish edition, released this video to show that the poet is still, in fact, alive.
My name is Abdurrahim Hayat. Today is February 10th, 2019. I'm in the process of being investigated for allegedly violating the national laws. I'm now in good health and have never been abused.
So after his proof of life video was released, other relatives said, hey, wait a second, what about my relatives? You can see some of the posts here that have popped up over the past few days, along with the hashtag #MeTooUyghur. These families also want China to release video proof that their relatives are alive and well, and many say they haven't spoken to their relatives after they disappeared into these so-called vocational camps. Now, last year, a UN panel of experts said that it had received credible reports that over 1 million Uyghurs are being held in these re-education camps to essentially renounce Islam. But China has denied that Uyghurs are being held against their will, saying that these vocational training centers are voluntary and designed to provide job training, as well as to avoid so-called extremist tendencies.
The streets of Port-au-Prince are quiet, but many fear the violence which has gripped the country for more than a week could begin again at any moment. The anger here stems from a government audit which discovered more than $2 billion in development funds are unaccounted for. The money in question was part of an oil assistance program called Petrocaribe.
The Petrocaribe Fund comes from an initiative from Venezuela's former president, Hugo Chavez. He wanted to have South-South cooperation with countries in Latin America, Haiti, Dominican Republic. But what happened is that they have been spending that money, and years later we realized that all those projects that they were supposed to realize, they didn't realize them.
Evidence of mismanaged funds can be seen across the country in unfinished infrastructure projects like this half-built overpass. Even renovation of the National Parliament building, a multi-million-dollar effort financed in part with Petrocaribe money, is still far from completed more than 7 years since construction began. Making his first public appearance since the protests started on February 7th, President Jovenel Moïse condemned the violence on the streets, but didn't outline any steps toward finding a resolution. Guichard Doré, an aide to the Haitian president, says the flames of the discontent are being fanned by the president's political opponents.
Haitian politicians always want to get rid of the president after a year or two. That's why we have this chronic instability. The president wants and is open to have a frank dialogue.
While the latest protests in Haiti are linked to the Petrocaribe scandal, discontent with the government has been mounting since the aftermath of the 2010 earthquake, where more than 100,000 people were killed. With widespread poverty, a declining economy, and new evidence of systemic corruption, anger finally reached a boiling point on the streets of the Haitian capital.
We're in downtown Port-au-Prince, where there's an uneasy calm as people pick up the pieces after more than a week of protests. There's still roadblocks set up that are preventing the free flow of traffic, and a tension that seems to suggest that the unrest may not be over just yet.
Anti-government demonstrators have renewed calls for more protests, continuing to demand the resignation of the president, a condition that Moïse has made no indication of accepting. The more moderate figures of the opposition are calling for a national dialogue, one that includes voices from all sectors of Haitian society. However, it remains to be seen if both sides will be able to find a lasting resolution to the ongoing political crisis. Manuel Rapalo, Al Jazeera, Port-au-Prince.
The US may have changed the title of the Warsaw meeting, but that had little impact on its focus. From the outset, it was clear that this was a gathering aimed at garnering support for American and Israeli policies against Iran.
You can't achieve peace and stability in the Middle East without confronting Iran. It's just not possible. There are malign influence in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq. The three H's, the Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah. These are real threats. There are others as well, but you can't get peace in the Middle East.
Yesterday was a historical turning point. Some 60 foreign ministers and representatives of dozens of governments, an Israeli prime minister and the foreign ministers of leading Arab countries stood together and spoke with unusual force, clarity, and unity against the common threat of the Iranian regime.
The government of Iran, whose president was meeting Turkish and Russian counterparts in the Black Sea resort of Sochi, described the conference in Poland as a circus. The US said 60 nations had convened in Poland as requested, but disagreement among the participants was evident. Some European Union countries sent low-level diplomats, apparently not happy with Washington's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal. American Vice President Mike Pence said he was saddened at the stance.
The time has come for our European partners to stand with us and the Iranian people, to stand with our allies and friends in the region. The time has come for our European partners to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal and join with us as we bring the economic and diplomatic pressure necessary to give the Iranian people, the region, and the world the peace, security, and freedom they deserve.
Arguably, the biggest beneficiary from the Warsaw Conference was Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, meeting publicly with senior ministers from Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the UAE, and Oman, furthering his agenda of normalization with Arab governments. The Warsaw meeting was intended to further peace and security in the Middle East. However, critics will say that it may have very well done the opposite by enabling Netanyahu, whose government flaunts international law and continues to illegally occupy Arab lands, and by favoring a more confrontationalist approach rather than a diplomatic one when it comes to Iran. Jamal Al-Shayal, Al Jazeera, Warsaw.
According to Reuters.com, the worst of the rain, snow, and winds carried by the so-called Pineapple Express, a river of warm air loaded with moisture, will hit California on Thursday and stick around at least through Friday. The weather system can be sourced from Hawaii. Many Californians have evacuated their homes to avoid being hurt by mudslides. It's already swamped several cars, flooded vineyards, and